So you thought you were safe because you're an American citizen. You thought that the ICE raids were not going to affect you. You thought because some reason you were born in this country that you were protected because you're fucking supposed to be. But we found out Tuesday that that's not the case at all. They don't give a shit if you are an American citizen. In Illinois, some 300 federal agents landed on the roof, stormed an apartment complex. Some came from helicopters landing on the roof. They went through the building, door to door, kicking open doors, using flashbangs, not even giving a shit that most of these people were American citizens. They went through their apartments. They trashed all of their stuff, went through their papers. The places looked torn up like burglars had just entered. Then they not only did they do that and violate the rights of citizens of the United States, but they actually handcuffed and zip-tied a bunch of American citizens, drug them out of the goddamn building, and kept them for hours and hours before releasing them. Folks, this shit is ridiculous. It's out of control, and something needs to be done about it. Because can you imagine just sleeping in the middle of the night? You are an American citizen, you haven't caused any problems, and somebody comes busting through your door, grabs you, zip ties you, drags your ass out of the building, and holds you. No warrant, no anything, no reason to even come to your apartment. Your rights are being violated. And then not only that, they kick in your door, which is wide open for anybody else to go in there, steal your stuff. They go through all of your personal belongings, illegal search and seizure, and not giving a shit. This is out of control. More people need to be talking about this. Folks, this is disgusting. The fact that they can just kick in anybody's damn door that they want without any kind of warrant, no reason, and start going through all of your stuff, detaining you, zip tying you, and dragging you out is not the American way. It is anti-American. It is the thing that nations that we criticize all the time and our government criticizes all the time. That's the shit that they do over there. But now it's right here in our doorstep in the orange buffoons, treasonous traitor Trump's new America.
They said freedom was guaranteed. They said rights were unshakable. They told the world that America was the land of liberty. But now the white America is crying. The white Americans are asking the same question black people have been screaming for 100 years, for 400 years. Because suddenly the system that once worked for them is working on them. And that's the moment too. It's like thunder, you know. You can't build a cage for someone and expect to stay free yourself forever. So what's happening right now in America isn't new. It is just new to them, you know, but it's not new. How? Helicopters in the sky, doors kicked open in the middle of the night, people zip-tied, searched, humiliated, families terrified inside their own homes, and the government says it is your safety. That sounds familiar. It is familiar because black people have lived this movie for centuries, okay? And we know how it ends. Now, let's watch these clips and then we come back with more commentary.
When I woke up this morning, I couldn't find my rights anywhere. I even asked my husband, "Hey babe, have you seen my rights? I can't find any of them." And he told me to shut my dirty whore mouth and make him a sandwich. What? I fucked around. And now I'm finding out. I'm gonna go shave my head.
I almost made an in-depth video addressing this situation that was thought out and that I was planning on putting a lot of energy into, and I decided, you know what? I'm not putting this level of energy into somebody who fucking talks like that. I will give you all a vocabulary lesson because I think this is a useful word to know. For the record, I've been trying to warn people for the better part of a decade that we would be where we're at right now if we didn't avert the course. I've also been disabled the majority of my life, so I've not really, had all the same rights as everyone else most of my life. So yes, I am very well aware of what can happen. Obviously, this is shocking to people like this person. But I'm not too stupid to understand what's happening around me. I'm not too stupid to understand history and to understand patterns and to understand politics. And I don't need somebody who has never experienced the world that I've had to experience take my hand and guide me.
Y'all, they trying to kill us. They trying to starve us to death. I just got some bad news, y'all. The U.S. just voted against food as a human right in 2025. Not 1825, not 1925, in 2025, okay? They out here preaching freedom and democracy while telling the world that basic survival is optional. What the fuck is really going on? No, that's not right. And you can't call yourself the land of the free if you out here denying people food. Where they do that at? Like, y'all have money for bombs and billionaires and fucking bailouts, but not for basic dignity? I'm not understanding. This system is starving people on purpose and trying to make it look normal. Don't let them. People, we need to fight. It is more of us than them. Come on now. Cause this can't be home of the brave and land of the fucking free. It can't be. I'm not understanding. Why they doing this to us? It don't make no fucking sense. If they think I'm finna go without fucking food, they got another motherfucking thing coming. I will blow all this motherfucker.
So the United Nations got together recently to vote on whether food is a human right. Only 2 countries voted against it: Israel and the United States of America. If you're an American citizen watching this video, you do not have the right to food, according to your government. Just let that sink in.
European Court of Human Rights. Really? What about my human rights? My human rights to walk down the street and feel safe in my country. My human rights to send my grandson to school without fearing and having to do lockdown procedures, hiding under tables in case there's some kind of lunatic that enters their school trying to do all sorts of, terrible things. My human right to walk into a shop and not have to be faced with people thieving, shoving it in bags in front of me whilst I have to pay because I choose to do the right thing. I choose to abide by the law. What about my human right to get a doctor's appointment before illegals do, to get a dentist appointment, to be made a priority in my own country because I've worked all my life, 60 years old, never ever not worked, never claimed benefits in my life. What about my human rights? For my daughter, my beautiful 28-year-old daughter is terrified to go out at night on her own and walk the streets, whether that be Oxford, where we are, London, wherever. Where are our human rights? European Court of Human Rights is a joke because they're not looking after our human rights. They're looking after all the illegals' human rights and making a fortune from it.
My name is Dylan Blaha, and this message is for every American who's scared right now. I'm a U.S. Army veteran and scientist who served in Afghanistan and Germany. We are living in unprecedented times. This administration is dangerously extremist. Dangerously radical. Because it's the government, many people have a false notion that whatever they do is normal. But it isn't. A lot of people don't understand what's happening in America right now. Racism, misogyny, and bigotry are rapidly becoming mainstream. Meanwhile, they're already threatening to silence political opposition. Our system is broken. Our economy isn't working for working people. Instead of fighting back against the system, which seems insurmountable, we fight against each other. They brainwash people into hating each other over small differences. Fear is their greatest tool. To all those who trash me in my comment sections, I have a message for you. You're being duped. They want you to hate your neighbor while they continue to rob you blind. In what world will deporting hardworking, undocumented immigrants lead to higher wages and cheaper groceries for you? It's time to activate our communities, and it's time to educate anyone you know who's willing to listen. We need to start sounding the alarm in any way we can. We cannot wait until the 2026 election. We are rapidly losing our rights and our freedoms. I know many of you are tired and scared. I'm tired too, but we need to stand together in this critical moment. It's now or never.
Why aren't Americans out on the streets protesting Trump's policies like they do over in Europe? Well, I'll take a shot at answering that. I'm not an expert, but I have opinions on the subject. If you're willing to listen, I'm willing to share. To begin with, I think there's a significant group of Americans who are simply apathetic. They don't care. They're willing to let the next guy handle it. They don't want to stick their necks out. There is yet another group of Americans who are simply so beaten down by the struggle of day-to-day life in this country that they don't have the energy to care. If you're a banker, if you're an attorney, if you're an engineer or an architect, a medical professional, or if you're in one of the specialized trades like electrical or plumbing, you can make a very good life here. But if you're not, there's a good chance you're struggling. And when you come home at night after that second job, all you want to do is collapse on the couch and put your feet up. You don't want to go out marching. I think Americans tend to have a negative perception of protesters, probably stemming from the days of the Vietnam War, when college students were out in the streets clashing violently with police. Americans, despite all the braggadocio and bravado, are a fairly docile bunch of people. They do what they're told. Additionally, there can be negative consequences for protesting in this country. For example, American corporations are incredibly sensitive to how they are perceived in the public eye. If it became known that a group of their employees was out marching in the streets and waving signs, there might be negative consequences. Those employees could face severance. I had a boss one time tell me that he didn't want to see me out marching in gay pride parades. It happens. Additionally, there's the risk of physical harm. It wouldn't surprise me at all to hear that a group of MAGA brown shirts had descended on some protesters and tried to beat them up. And you have to remember that Americans are armed to the teeth. Guns are everywhere. In my state, you can carry a gun in your pocket without a permit or a license. But I think the biggest reason that Americans are not out protesting in the streets about Trump's policies is that they agree with them. I know that sounds incredible, but it's true. This is an aggrieved group of people who do not want the nation sharing its wealth with other countries. They feel like America has been taken advantage of by other countries. They are tired of seeing us give away our money and our resources to other countries. They don't want people from other countries coming over here to take advantage of the benefits and the opportunities that we have. They don't want to share. Back in World War I or World War II, you would have called these people isolationists. They don't want to get involved. They don't care what happens to Ukraine. They don't care what happens to Taiwan. They don't care what happens to Europe. They simply want to keep everything to themselves. In order to understand the American mindset, you have to know something about the way Americans live, because it is dramatically different than the way people in Europe live. In Europe, people read books, they go to museums, they travel, they're exposed to other cultures, other languages, other lifestyles. They're much more cosmopolitan in their perception of how the world exists and how we all get along with each other. Here in the States, it's completely the opposite. If you watched American TV commercials, you would think that we spend our discretionary time out rock climbing or kissing under the stars or roping cattle or doing any number of things that keep us engaged with each other. The fact is, we don't live like that at all. In America, people adore technology, and they have been seduced by media. And by media, I don't mean the news media, I mean the medium itself. Television, movies, the internet, video games. They spend a great deal of their discretionary time consuming media. And the problem with America's fascination with technology and its adoration of media is that it can be very isolating. For instance, in America, you don't have to go to an office building to work anymore. You can work from home. You don't have to go to the grocery store or to the department store to pick up your goods. You can just have them delivered. You don't have to go out to a restaurant to enjoy a meal. Have it delivered to your house. You don't have to go to a movie theater to watch a movie. Just stream it on your computer or your TV. So Americans spend a great deal of time home alone. They are not exposed to a multiplicity of cultures or languages or experiences. They're home alone. And because this technology allows them to do it, they can curate their information sources so that they only hear the information that they want to hear. In other words, their biases are confirmed over and over and over. So in Europe, where you have large groups of people, living in close proximity to each other, with a variety of cultures, a variety of languages, and a variety of worldviews. Here in the United States, you tend to have people living in silos and echo chambers of confirmation bias. Is it any wonder that Americans live in such extreme conditions? There's no middle ground in this country anymore. You're either extreme left or extreme right. The middle ground has been eliminated by the technology that enables people to be alone all the time. We've basically become a nation of angry sociopaths. And that's why people don't get out and protest, because they agree with Trump is doing. Trump appeals to their confirmation bias. The country is like an open wound, and Trump is quite literally the infection that is exploiting that open wound. So if you were wondering why Americans don't protest, I think that's why.
We are going backwards, while China is going forwards. China is raising people out of poverty. Our system is putting people into poverty. France is in flames. Britain is shivering with cold, with an increase in energy bills in households of four times the cost of heating this year as compared to last. In the United States, 80 million people have no health insurance. They talk about human rights. Where is the human right to a job in Western countries? Where is the human right to a house? Ask the growing numbers of people living in tents in San Francisco and in many other parts of the United States. Where is the human right to health?
People are screaming and rioting in the street because illegal people are being deported. People are screaming they're not getting due process. They're not having their constitutional rights respected. Okay, number one, you do not have constitutional rights if you're here illegally. If you are not an American citizen, the Constitution does not apply to you. If it did, then it would cheapen the Constitution. Go to another nation and try to invoke the rights given to you by the American Constitution. Not gonna work. Go to the nation of Haiti. I've been there. My constitutional rights mean absolutely nothing there. You know why? Because we're not in America. Okay? We have got to protect the Constitution.
So due process is in this situation is: are you here legally?
That isn't.
That is due process. Yes, it is.
Due process is getting arrested and charged with a crime and seeing a judge, and these people are not seeing a judge. That's not true.
They don't have a right to see a judge.
Why?
They came here illegally. They came here illegally.
If you are on American soil, your status does not matter. You have a legal right in this country for due process.
Rights. If you want to tell us that we can't take painkillers while pregnant because it causes autism, if you want to take all this shit away, take away my right to work. Take away my fucking right to have a fucking job. I don't want to work. I don't want to work. Take away my right to work. I will gladly sit at home and make a fucking sandwich if it means I don't have to go outside in this public hellhole every single fucking day where everyone's a psycho MAGA.
We've reached insanity in America right now. Okay, my friend Ashby on Instagram sent me this story and I had to talk about it. Trump administration questions Native Americans' birthright citizenship. And yes, I read that correctly and you heard it right. Native Americans' birthright citizenship in court. He wants to obviously change the 14th Amendment. And part of those people would be the people who were here first. You know, those people whose land we stole. He wants to remove their citizenship. Dude, what is happening? This is obviously insane. So let's do some good news, bad news. Good news. Just today, judge blocks the executive order by Donald Trump, which would outlaw birthright citizenship. A judge said, "This is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. and blocked it. So that's the good news. Probably the bad news, Trump's going to continue to go after it. I mean, I don't even know if he can, right? Because this obviously takes an act of Congress and Senate to make this happen. But he's saying that the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to give universal citizenship to everyone born in the U.S. He's saying this has been pushed by a minority of legal experts. Everything I've read said every legal expert, conservative, liberal, all agree the 14th Amendment is here to stay. So this fool is ready to take the citizenship rights away, once again, from the people whose land we stole. These people know no end. This is about white America in every form whatsoever. Once again, good news, judge said, I'm blocking your executive order. Bad news, Donald Trump said he's going to keep going after it. I don't know if anything's going to happen out of it, but with these MAGA people, you never know. With the Supreme Court, you definitely never know if it gets there. But highlight this, share it. I'm sorry, there's not a lot of stories where I'm like, what the hell's going on? This is peak narcissistic sociopath white nationalism in display. How can you even justify this? Keep fighting the fight, people.
So not one, not two, not three, but 4 mass shootings across the country in 24 hours. It's interesting, I haven't heard anything about political affiliation. Oh, that's right. It was a MAGA, wasn't it? I forgot. We don't talk about the details when a MAGA does it, which is like 99% of the time.
Welcome back. Now, you see, every empire reaches that point where the tools of oppression turn inwards. The same system designed to control black bodies, indigenous lands, and migrants now point their guns at the very citizens who once said, this is just the law, and now the law feels different when it knocks you on your door, doesn't it? Now, when it was black people, they said comply. When it was black people, they said don't resist. It was BL, they said maybe they did something wrong, but now they are saying this is tyranny. Now they are saying the government has gone too far. And black people say, welcome to our experience of being black in America. Welcome to the experience of black people, okay? Because let's be honest here. America was never a country built on equal rights. Was it? It wasn't. It was built on selective rights. Rights for some, silence for others, protection for a few, punishment for the rest, and that has been the foundation since the beginning. They wrote, we the people, but meant we the powerful. They said liberty and justice for all, but practiced privilege and profit for some. And now the cracks is happening. The cracks is here, and those cracks are too wide. If the cracks are too wide to hide, for example, you have put a rat trap in your house, okay? You want to trap a rat, and then electricity or lights goes off. So in one way or the other, you can find yourself in the same trap, and that's what is happening. Look around. The same government that funded mass surveillance in black neighborhood is now watching everyone. The same police that treated black lives as disposable are now brutalizing protesters at all cost. The same IC raids that ripped immigrants' families apart are now storming apartments filled with citizens. Because once the machine starts rolling, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It just changes its target. That's the reality, okay? And history repeats. Because America never learned. They said slavery ended, but policing repressed the chains. They said segregation ended, but redlining drew invisible fences. They said equality came, but mass incarceration became the new cotton field. Okay? And through it all, America's consciousness stayed quiet until the noise reached their own door. Now, I don't know. Now you're seeing it. You're seeing that panic, that helplessness, that rage when the people who swore to protect you become the ones you fear. Do you see that? That's what black mothers have felt every time a son left home and didn't text back. That's what black fathers felt when they taught their kids to keep their hands visible at traffic, to show their hands. Okay? That's what generation carried is in silence while waving a flag that never waved back. Now, psychologically, freedom is not a birthright. It is a responsibility. Okay? Because you can't keep silent when someone else's rights are being crushed and then expect your own to be safe. Because silence is concept in the language of operation, and America has been fluent in that language for too long. So now white Americans are marching. White Americans are posting, are crying about freedom. They are quoting the Constitution, waving flags upside down, shouting, we are losing our country. But let's be real. You are not losing your country. Are just taste the same bitter cup you handed to everyone else. Okay? The illusion of safety is breaking. The privilege bubble is popping. And reality is flooding in. Okay? For black people, reality was never optional. We lived it. We breathed it. Survived it, We built this. For black people, reality was never optional. They lived it. They breathed it. They survived it. They built this nation. They built the nation wealth with no pay, with no thanks, no mercy. They carried it war. They built roads, railroads, cleaned the houses, raised the children, And still, they had to prove that we were human. And right now, when the system starts turning on its own creators, suddenly everybody wants justice. Suddenly, the rights now are being seen as rights. And I always say, everything that's happening is a prophetic awakening. Okay? This is the sound of prophecy fulfilling itself. You can't sow equality and not reap chaos. You cannot ignore the cries of the oppressed and expect peace in your own homes. Every injustice ignored becomes a storm deferred. And the storm is here. White America, if you are listening, this is your wake-up call, okay? Not punishment. It's a wake-up call, an invitation, because now that you feel the fire, I think you finally understand the smoke, okay? Now that you feel the weight of government boots on your necks, you finally know why black people are always marching or were always marching. Now that you see rights disappearing in daylight, maybe you will stop saying all life matters and start asking what mattered first. Because let's talk about rights. In a systematic analysis, rights are not paper. Rights are not ink on a document. Rights are power in practice, and power never gives itself away. It has to be challenged and has to be checked and balanced. For centuries, America has distributed rights like coupons, Some valid, some expired, some denied on the door, just like coupons. And now the whole store is burning down. When black folks were shouting hands up, don't shoot, they call them agitators. When black folks kneeled in peaceful protest, they called them unpatriotic. They said the system was broken. They said they were lying. And now that white citizens are getting arrested for protesting, raided without warrants, silence on social media, they finally believe the system is broken. They finally believe the system it's broken. But let me tell you, the system was never broken. It has never broken. But the system was built that way. Okay? We don't rejoice anyone suffering. Black Americans, I know you don't rejoice anyone suffering. You don't celebrate fear. But we recognize truth. Because when truth finally hits home, there's a chance of transforming. Okay, maybe now, I think white Americans will see the injustice that has been happening, Maybe now they can talk about it. They can talk about humanity without color-coding compassion. So, the question is not whether white America will cry about rights. The question is whether they will finally listen to the people who have been crying all along, because they were warned by black folks. History warned them. And now the warning has become reality. You get that? So I don't know which way will they take. I don't. Okay? So the question is, will you do this new awareness? Because awareness without action is just guilty dressed up in progress. You can cry, you can post, you can rage online, but unless you start changing what you protect and what you tolerate, nothing changes. America doesn't need more outrage. It needs courage. Courage to face history. Courage to admit the freedom has always had color code. Courage to destroy a system that feeds on equality instead of pretending to reform it. Now, when you talk about courage to face history, that means the ugly history of USA. And this is the history a lot of white people don't want to hear about it. Okay? The white system doesn't want to hear about it, and that's why they are trying to erase. They call it woke history. It is not woke. That is the real history. The history of America building its country on genocide, history of them stealing, the history of using black people. Every era has a mirror moment. Every era has a mirror moment. In In 1860s, it was the Civil War. In 1960s, it was civil rights. And right now, in these decades, it is the collapse of illusion. And the mirror is showing America what it truly is. Black people saw that reflection generation ago. They tried to tell white people, they tried to call them out and tell them what's happening, but black people were called angry, they were called victims, but black people were not angry. They were just awake to see the reflections and to know what to do next. And being prophetic, now that same mirror stands before white America, and the question is, will you smash it or will you look into it? Look into that mirror and see your reflection, what has been happening. Because you can't heal what you won't see, and you can't fix what you still benefit from. That's reality. Rights aren't truly rights until they apply equally when it's inconvenient, Think about how fast law and order changed meaning. When the slogan was used against black protesters, it meant control. And now that it is used against white parents, white workers, white farmers, it suddenly means oppression. That's the irony of empire. It always eats its own children last. They build the surveillance state. Now they are shocked it's watching them too. They defended militarized police. Now they are horrified that those same forces treat them as suspects. They ignored ICE raids. Now helicopters lands on their roads. Okay? So the circle always closes. For generations, black people begged the country of America to redefine safety, not as control but as compassion. But no one listened. Now everyone is unsafe, white, brown, black. And when the state learns that fear works, it never forgets that lesson. Fear becomes the currency of obedience. And that's why today America or Americans of every color are living paycheck to paycheck, whether black or white. Not just financially but emotionally too. You wake up, scroll the news, you hear pew pew, you feel powerless. That's by design. It is strategic. Okay? Now, there's something I must talk about is culture. Cultural. America trained its citizens to worship authority. The flag, the badge, the uniform, the title, we have seen in the movies, Also, all symbols of safety were worshipped. But when those symbols turn on you, you discover the truth. Safety without justice is just submission, okay? So now white Americans are discovering what it feels like to live on the edge of someone else's comfort, okay? Every traffic stops feel different. Every letter from the government look threatening. Every law passed for your protection smells like surveillance. You see? Welcome to the neighborhood. Family is about recognition, because if white America truly understands what's happening, maybe it can finally stand with, not above, the people it once ignored. Because black people don't need allies who feel sorry. Black people need partners who are ready to fight and a shared future. Because when justice finally becomes colorblind, everyone wins. That's the reality. Historically, remember how they used to teach history in school. Like the heroes were always white, the villains were always dark. Freedom was always something they gave to black people, they gave to Africa, they gave to, black countries, not something that we seized, But look around now, those same textbooks can't explain the present, because the narrative flipped. The oppression became the teachers, or the oppressed became the teachers, and the silent became, the prophets. The universe has a strange balance. How? What you refuse to learn through empathy, you will learn through experience. And white America is now learning through experience what empathy refused to teach. And that's not punishment. It is evolution. And evolution is never comfortable. It breaks, it rebuilds, it redefines. It asks uncomfortable questions. Who are you when privilege no longer protects you? Who are you when the police no longer see you as harmless? Who are you when your government stops pretending to be on your side? So that's the question you are being asked. So this is the moment when transformation becomes possible, because pain is a teacher no university can replicate. Maybe now we can rebuild America, not as the hierarchy, but as a human project, okay? Maybe now, instead of asking who is losing their rights, we can ask, how do we protect everyone? That's the question maybe white Americans need to ask themselves, okay? So to my brothers and sisters watching, black, white, brown, all shades in between, remember this: empires collapse, but people survive. Systems fall, but communities rebuild. When government forget humanity, humanity must remember itself. And this is your chance to redefine freedom again. Not the freedom to dominate, but the freedom to breathe, to exist, to be seen. Because crying about rights means nothing if you never defended anyone else. Marching for your own freedom means nothing if you tripped others on their way to theirs, you know. Now it is time to link arms and work together, my brothers and sisters, not in guilt but in purpose. The same fire that burned plantation can light a new town if you choose wisdom, okay? Now, across the world, other nations are watching America unraveling, okay? They are seeing the hypocrisy exposed. They are learning that the myth of perfection was just marketing. And guess what? Guess who is standing through it all? It is Africa. It is Africa. Because as Africans, we already faced the storm and we survived it. Because we know that it means to rebuild after being stripped bare. We know the strength of community when government fails. That's Africa. And that's why African voice matters no more than ever. While America cries about rights, Africa is learning self-reliance. While Western system crumbles, African youths are rising. The same energy that once fueled colonization is now fueling liberation, but on the side of Africans, on our side. Okay? And just maybe that's why the world feels upside down right now, because balance is returning. Okay? Now, I'll give free advice to my white American brothers and sisters. This isn't the end of your story. It is just the end of your illusion. You can rebuild something better only if you start telling the truth. The truth about history, the truth about privilege, the truth about pain that you never felt but others carried for you. Only then can equality mean something real. So these tears you cry today are not wasted. They water the soil of change. But if they do it or they dry into bitterness, the circle continues. So cry, but then rise. Listen, but then act, because freedom that shared grows stronger. Freedom that hoarded turns to dust. Tell me what you think in the comment section about this video. Until next episode, peace out.